Hey everybody, Milo and Blake here coming at you from Superstition Mountain. So Blake, you off camera, you asked me a question.
I get asked the question a lot, how much speed do I need to get out of the bunker? Because I think most people assume when their bunker shot looks like that they didn't have enough speed, and that's why. So then they just start swinging harder and harder and harder, and they're not really getting anywhere with it.
Yeah. I always like to say that if your technique is good, you really don't need a lot of speed.
And I'm going to do a quick demonstration, and I'm going to try to swing as soft as I can, which may not be as soft as some people, but I'm going to try to go as slow and smooth as I can. So that was about as smooth as I could swing and move the club with the least amount of energy possible, and the ball came out just fine.
Yep, came out, landed. The one thing you'll notice when you make that kind of smoother motion, would that ball not have much of?
Spin.
It didn't have a ton of spin.
It came out just kind of soft,
yes,
with just a little bit of run, which generally is what you and I are looking for when we play, because my common problem is I can put a lot of speed into it and then I actually generate more spin than I want, and I find it hard to get, when I have 30 feet of green to work with, to get the ball to the hole if I'm spinning it too much. But
my preference for bunker shots is for them to land and release. I don't, those ones that fly over there and check, they're pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty inconsistent too.
The only time I'm really intentionally using a lot of speed, as backwards as it sounds probably, is on the little short ones when I really need the ball to stop, and because I have the face completely pancaked open, and then I'm going to use some speed. But so it's for me, it's almost like an inverse relationship. If the shot's real short, I'm going to open the face a lot. If I don't have a lot of green to work with,
yes,
then I'm going to use some speed. But for my stock bunker shot, I'm never like intentionally trying to put a lot of force, because what happens is most time when you try and put a lot of force into a bunker shot, you see a lot of people dragging the handle like that, which creates a lot of the problems and stuff we've gone over in the past.
Yes.
Pulling the handle up, dragging a lot of sand, when in reality we want the club to actually release quite a bit through the bunker shot and kind of unload.
Okay, so we've convinced everybody that they don't need as much speed as they think out of the bunker. Let's talk about the technique that allows that. Let's get into it a little deeper.
The key to this is a proper attack angle. Right amount of loft for the amount of sand you have, and creating a proper attack angle. So a lot of that is in the setup, right? We talk a lot about in setup, and it has to look quite a bit different. So if we want to get that face open, we got to get down into our legs a little bit, so we have a little bit of knee flex, a little more than we normally would. And this handle is going to be down low. So if you look at what would be like a standard 60 setup, which is what, if I'm hitting a full shot, what most people look like in a bunker, versus what I look like in my actual bunker shot, what this allows me to do is now laterally move. So if I have a lot of sand, I'm going to be very neutral. If I have very little sand, I'm going to get a lot more weight on my front foot. Ball position is going to slide a little forward with it. And from here, the motion feels, for me, it feels a little bit more around the body than most swings, but it doesn't necessarily have that appearance, and that's because of my handle position at address.
Yeah.
What I don't want to see is a lot of pickup with the arms.
Yes,
I like to feel more like I'm loading and unloading the shaft a little more with my hands.
That was one of the things I wanted to touch on. I see a lot of people trying to make this club work up and cut across.
Yep.
When the club cuts too much across, the angle of attack gets too steep, and then they need tons of speed to get the ball out. So if I'm cutting across, you know, I swing pretty stinking hard, and that ball barely got out of the bunker, where if my swing direction was more neutral, I could swing this golf club much slower and have the ball get out easier.
Yeah, so I would say that most bunker shots feel like the most quote-unquote around the body of any swing that I make.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that happens because of how down we are and how low this handle is. So now our swing plane effectively is more around us. Cut spinner.
Because it's pretty hard to maintain a low handle, because your wrist conditions are a little different in a bunker, right?
Yeah.
Naturally you have more cup in your lead wrist. It's pretty hard to maintain that if you have a lot of lift in your arms, at least it is for me. It's a lot easier for me to feel like my hands go more around with that cupped wrist. And then it also allows me to, the key to this is what it allows me to do is let the club release without shutting that face down, because I like to feel like the face stays to the sky.
So you can almost like throw the club over around you and the face never turns down.
My visual is I'm grabbing sand, trying to throw that sand kind of over my shoulder with the release. That's what I feel when I do it. But The key to this is if you can learn to create a proper setup, and the motion really doesn't, that's why bunkers aren't that hard. The motion doesn't actually have to be that good.
No.
To get the ball out in a reasonable spot. You just have to manage the attack angle and the loft. And the key is getting a good setup and then don't have too much lift and standing up with the handle. If you can manage that, it doesn't require a lot of speed just to get the ball out reasonably good. Now, if you want to produce a ton of spin because you need it, then you need a little bit of speed, but all the same principles apply. It's just going to be a hair more force into it. But it's still not as much as people think to get the ball to spin.
And the interesting thing is, when you swing hard, the ball doesn't necessarily go that much farther. It just spins more.
Yeah,
shoots up more.
Yeah, it just spins more. It doesn't really have all that much more carry.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting out of the bunker, the answer is generally not swing harder. It's create a better attack angle with better management of the club face and what you're doing with this here. That's really the ticket to getting out of the bunker. Once you get that down, bunker shots get pretty darn easy, and from there it's just simply adjusting to different sand conditions, depending on how firm, how soft.
And then you can start applying some of the principles we talked about. If you want to stop it, you can cut it a little bit. If you want it to run a little bit, you can draw it a little bit.
What I like to do is interesting, as I'm like you, I try and get my knees down, my hands low, but I try and practice a lot of times not cutting across it.
Yep.
Because I have a tendency when I cut across it too much, I back up like you were saying.
Yeah.
And I dump it back here somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
So I like.
So you do it through the hands though, like this.
I can do it with the hands, and I try and do it through the arc, and I try and feel like when I'm practicing, I draw these.
Yeah.
As a practice session.
Yeah.
Now in a tournament, I would never draw it that much.
Yeah. But
it'd be more
it's
neutral.
more this way neutral.
Exactly, because I have a tendency to wipe, and I practice too much wiping.
Yeah.
Then I get in a bunker and it's even worse.
But I think everybody needs to learn just a stock basic, get out of the sand shot first. And once you can get out of the sand every time, then we can start applying some cool techniques to make the ball dance on the green how we want it to.
Short game is one of those things, whether it's bunker shots, chipping, pitching, or no matter what it is in the short game, if your stock shot isn't pretty bulletproof, you're going to have a lot harder time adjusting and making those manipulations, right? It's just like anything in life. We got to get the basic one down first, and then you can start having a little bit more freedom with your hands and what you're doing with your release to start changing how the ball comes off the face and how it hits the green, because there's endless options, whether it's bunker around the green, in terms of how you can do this stuff. But the stock one's got to be good before you can make those adjustments properly.
For sure. Okay, Blake, now everybody's going to want to see this. We're going to have a little one shot each competition to that hole. So let's give them a little show. I'll go first. I'll hit the first shot and let you try to beat it.
What
about 2 feet.
2 feet. Go.
I think I lucked out. It's pretty close, but I think I nipped you.
I think you might.
Okay, good job.
I put too much speed into it.
You did. So if you guys like that video, please hit the like and subscribe button. Come follow Blake. What's your Instagram handle?
Short Game Agent.
At Short Game Agent. And come over to milolinesgolf.com, where we can teach you to swing like an athlete and how to play the best golf of your life.